Welcome to People and Profit. I'm Kate Moody. And today we're bringing you a special show from the 10th annual VivaTech Festival. It's Europe's largest event devoted to startups, innovation, and technology. Today, we're looking beyond Earth's surface to the next frontier of space. My guest today is Marta Oliveira, co-founder and chief operations officer at Atmos Space Cargo. Thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Atmos has been described as the FedEx of space. Tell us a little bit about what your company does.
That's a correct description. So at Atmos, we're building reusable space capsules to bring back safely cargo from orbit. We have launched our first prototype with SpaceX last year, and we're now working in the next generation vehicle, Phoenix 2, a free flyer version.
What kind of clients do you have? Can you give us a few concrete examples of the kinds of missions that you're undertaking?
Sure. So the applications can vary from in-space manufacturing to advanced materials and to pharmaceutical. So for instance, we have Space Cargo Unlimited as a client. So they are integrating many of these payloads that are wanting to do research in microgravity on the topics of life sciences.
You mentioned there that your technology is reusable. It's one of the big selling points. The idea is that it can take something up to space and then back again, and then in theory do that same trip all over again.
Exactly. So we're aiming to have a reusable capsule up to 5 times reusable. And I think we've all seen with launchers the economic effect of having a reusable launcher. And we want to have the same for the return ticket, for the return capsule.
And that presumably makes it more cost efficient for potential clients.
Exactly. And that's also what allows us to step up the cadence of flights in the future.
Why is sustainability important for your company?
Well, we actually started working on rocket stage reuse. So our main focus was sustainability from the starting point. We pivoted into the life sciences capsules afterwards, but we wanted to make launchers more sustainable by having reusability applied with IADs.
Do you think that sustainability is really compatible with the idea of space exploration?
Yes, I think it's, especially if you're working with systems like AIDs that are inflatable atmospheric decelerators, it's a much more sustainable approach than, say, using retropropulsion, right? So IADs are essentially like a heat shield and a parachute in one, and it leaves a much lesser footprint than, say, retropropulsion.
Talk to me a little bit about this reusable technology. What is it that allows these capsules to go up into space and then come back down essentially undamaged?
So essentially you have 3 ways of doing this. You can have like ablative capsules, you can have retropropulsion that I just mentioned, and IADs. So you can think of the IAD as a combination of heat shield and parachute that brings back the whole capsule back protected by the large inflated area.
Now, throughout your career, you've worked at different national space agencies. You've had some time at NASA, at the European Space Agency, at France's space agency as well. Why did you decide to switch into this emerging private sector of space exploration?
So right before joining, I was doing the James Webb launch campaign in Guyana, and got the call about this company idea. And at the time, I was going to continue in Ariane 5 campaigns and eventually switch to Ariane 6. And this seemed like a much more exciting environment to be in and the possibility to create something brand new.
And Atmos recently had a fairly successful fundraising round. Is it easier to fund this sort of research and development in the private sector than in the public sector?
So in the private sector, it sounds easier than it was. We actually couldn't raise our seed round for 1 entire year. So now it's easy to make it look good, having raised in total more than 35 million. So it was actually a pretty tough ride to get here. And we have actually also been supported by the public sector. We also were supported by the European Innovation Council Accelerator.
Atmos was founded as a European company. It defines itself as a European company. Why is that an important part of the identity?
Actually, we have all European nationalities in the company. Even in the founders team, we have 3 nationalities, and that was the idea from the starting point. We are based in Germany, in Lichtenau, at the border with France, and in Strasbourg as well. So we're a Franco-German company, but really a European company from the start.
The 21st century has seen a whole new kind of space race kick off, really. Talk to me a little bit about the international dimension of that competition that we're seeing here.
You're right. It's really moving into an era of exploration to space's infrastructure. I mean, we've recently seen the SpaceX IPO become, the highest ever in history, and this validates markets like the one we are working in. Space is really moving into infrastructure, and if we are going to see more commercial activity in low Earth orbit, more in-space manufacturing, more research, then we are going to need to have that return capacity, and that's what we're building at Atmos.
You mentioned the SpaceX IPO, which of course has made headlines around the world. What does Europe need to do to build its own version of that kind of a successful company when it comes to space?
We don't need to necessarily copy-paste and have just one SpaceX in Europe. We can have a lot of different successful companies in the different domains, from launch to manufacturing to defense applications, and do it our own European way. We don't have a scarcity of talent or resources, so it's more about scaling it up.
What about when it comes to the money? Because when we look at SpaceX, of course, backed by the richest man in the world, we look at Blue Origin, also founded by an incredibly rich man himself. Can European companies compete with that level of funding?
I believe we can. I think we have everything to become global champions. You mentioned the example of SpaceX. SpaceX actually had a lot of institutional support in the development through the COTS and CRS program. And to have institutional support as anchor customers more than just grant giving, that is actually essential to become a global champion in space.
And what about from the lowest level? How do you get children excited about joining this kind of business?
I think that's quite easy. I mean, which one of us hasn't dreamed of being an astronaut as a kid, right?
There's a difference between the idea of actually going into space yourself and working on the programs that make that possible.
Of course, but I think the imagination and the dreaming is there. And when you see, what you can actually achieve by having the space infrastructure, I think, again, it's self-fulfilling and an easy motivation to find.
I would like to ask you about what it's like to be a woman in this industry. Do you feel that you've faced any challenges that male counterparts have not?
I mean, of course, we are in a minority, so I think that's a challenge in itself. But that is changing rapidly, and I see it very positively. If I look at our company, we went from, essentially just having me there to now reaching a good relevant percentage of the company with female employees.
And how would you encourage more young girls and women to really get involved in space and in space engineering in particular?
Well, there hasn't been a better time to do this. This is the best time in history to work in the space sector, so there shouldn't be a hesitation there.
What is the most exciting thing happening in space exploration right now? What's the thing that we should keep an eye out for?
Well, what we're doing is not just rocket science. Return is maybe one of the biggest challenges in rocket science itself. So I would say to solve the scarcity and the available systems to actually be able to bring the value that is created in orbit back to Earth is one of the most exciting challenges to be a part of.
And does artificial intelligence play a role in that?
Of course, it can. For instance, if you are talking about autonomous operations, AI can be factored in.
Can you give us a concrete example of how it might work in your favor?
If you want to integrate, for instance, conflict avoidance in low Earth orbit with AI, it will be easier to, go through all those data packages more easily.
We're here at VivaTech, where at least 14,000 exhibitors have joined us here. Everyone has something exciting to show. What has been inspiring you here?
So I've just arrived today, so I have only heard about the panel from Jeff Bezos that was apparently a very inspiring one. Yeah.
Marta Oliveira, thank you so much for joining us on People and Profit today.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching. Stay tuned to France 24.